his beliefs, the objection made sense. "Well, I have a Colt .38 Special," he said. "But you know, I belong to this auxiliary police outfit. If I were called out for duty this evening, I'd need it. How soon could you bring it back?" Something clicked in Allan Hartley's mind. He remembered now what that incident had been. He knew, too, what he had to do. "Dad, aren't there some cartridges left for the Luger?" he asked. Blake Hartley snapped his fingers. "By George, yes! I have a German automatic I can let you have. But I wish you'd bring it back as soon as possible. I'll get it for you." Before he could rise, Allan was on his feet. "Sit still, Dad. I'll get it. I know where the cartridges are." With that he darted into the house and upstairs. The Luger hung on the wall over his father's bed. Getting it down, he dismounted it, working with rapid precision. He used the blade of his pocket knife to unlock the end piece of the breech block, slipping out the firing pin and buttoning it into his shirt pocket. Then he reassembled the harmless pistol and filled the clip with 9mm cartridges from the bureau drawer. There was an extension telephone beside the bed. Finding Gutchall's address in the directory, he lifted the telephone and stretched his handkerchief over the mouthpiece. Then he dialed police headquarters. "This is Blake Hartley," he lied, deepening his voice and copying his father's tone. "Frank Gutchall, who lives at— Take this down." He gave Gutchall's address. "Has just borrowed a pistol from me, ostensibly to shoot a dog. He has no dog. He intends shooting his wife. Don't argue about how I know. There isn't time. Just take it for granted that I do. I disabled the pistol, took out the firing pin. But if he finds out what I did, he may get some other weapon. He's on his way home, but he's on foot. If you hurry, you may get a man there before he arrives, and grab him before he finds out the pistol won't shoot." "Okay, Mr. Hartley. We'll take care of it. Thanks. And I wish you'd get my pistol back, as soon as you can. It's something I brought home from the other war, and I shouldn't like to lose it." "We'll take care of that, too. Thank you, Mr. Hartley." He hung up and carried the Luger and the loaded clip down to the porch. "Look, Mr. Gutchall, here's how it works," he said, showing it to the visitor. Then he slapped in the clip and yanked up on the toggle loading the chamber. "It's ready to shoot now. This is the safety." He pushed it on. "When you're ready to shoot, just shove it forward and up, and then pull the trigger. You have to pull the trigger each time. It's loaded for 8 shots. And be sure to put the safety back when you're through shooting." "Did you load the chamber?" Blake Hartley demanded. "Sure. It's on safe now." "Let me see." His father took the pistol, being careful to keep his finger out of the trigger guard, and looked at it. "Yes, that's all right." He repeated the instructions Allan had given, stressing the importance of putting the safety on after using. "Understand how it works now?" he asked. "Yes, I understand how it works. Thank you, Mr. Hartley." "Thank you, too, young man." Gutchall put the Luger in his hip pocket, made sure it wouldn't fall out, and took his departure. "You shouldn't have loaded it," Hartley père reproved when he was gone. Allan sighed. This was it. The masquerade was over. "I had to keep you from fooling with it," he said. "I didn't want you finding out that I'd taken out the firing pin." "You what?" "Gutchall didn't want that gun to shoot a dog. He has no dog. He meant to shoot his wife with it. He's a religious maniac, sees visions, hears voices, receives revelations, talks with the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost probably put him up to this caper. I'll submit that any man who holds long conversations with a deity isn't to be trusted with a gun, and neither is any man who lies about why he wants one. And while I was at it, I called the police, on the upstairs phone. I had to use your name. I deepened my voice and talked through a handkerchief." "You—" Blake Hartley jumped as though bee-stung. "Why did you have to do that?" "You know why. I couldn't have told them. This is little Allan Hartley, just 13 years old. Please, Mr. Policeman, go and arrest Frank Gutchall before he goes root-toot-toot at his wife with my papa's Luger. That would have gone over big now, wouldn't it?" "And suppose he really wants to shoot a dog? What sort of mess will I be in?" "No mess at all. If I'm wrong, which I'm not, I'll take the thump for it myself. It'll pass for a dumb kid trick, and nothing'll be done. But if I'm right, you'll have to front for me. They'll keep your name out of it, but they'd give me a lot of cheap boy hero publicity, which I don't want." He picked up his pencil again. "We should have the complete returns in about 20 minutes." That was a 10-minute underestimate, and it was another quarter hour before the detective sergeant who returned the Luger had finished congratulating Blake Hartley and giving him the thanks of the department. After he had gone, the lawyer picked up the Luger, withdrew the clip, and ejected the round in the chamber. "Well," he told his son, "you were right. You saved that woman's life." He looked at the automatic, and then handed it across the table. "Now, let's see you put that firing pin back." Allan Hartley dismantled the weapon, inserted the missing part, and put it together again, then snapped it experimentally, and returned it to his father. Blake Hartley looked at it again, and laid it on the table. "Now, son, suppose we have a little talk," he said softly. "But I explained everything," Allan objected innocently. "You did not," his father retorted. "Yesterday you'd never have thought of a trick like this. Why, you wouldn't even have known how to take this pistol apart. And at dinner, I caught you using language in expressing ideas that were entirely outside anything you'd ever known before. Now, I want to know, and I mean this literally." Allan chuckled. "I hope you're not toying with the rather medieval notion of obsession," he said. Blake Hartley started. Something very like that must have been flitting through his mind. He opened his mouth to say something, then closed it abruptly. "The trouble is, I'm not sure you aren't right," his son continued. "You say you find me changed. When did you first notice a difference?" "Last night. You were still my little boy. This morning," Blake Hartley was talking more to himself than to Allan, "I don't know. You were unusually silent at breakfast. And come to think of it, there was something strange about you when I saw you in the hall upstairs. Allan!" he burst out vehemently. "What has happened to you?" Allan Hartley felt a twinge of pain. What his father was going through was almost what he himself had endured in the first few minutes after waking. "I wish I could be sure myself, Dad," he said. "You see, when I woke this morning I hadn't the least recollection of anything I'd done yesterday. August 4th, 1945, that is," he specified. "I was positively convinced that I was a man of 43, and my last memory was of lying on a stretcher, injured by a bomb explosion, and I was equally convinced that this had happened in 1975. "Huh?" His father straightened. "Did you say 1975?" He thought for a moment. "That's right. In 1975 you will be 43. A bomb, you say?" Allan nodded. "During the siege of Buffalo, in the Third World War," he said, "I was a captain in G5, Scientific Warfare, General Staff. There'd been a transpolar air invasion of Canada, and I'd been sent to the front to check on service failures of a new lubricating oil for combat equipment. A week after I got there, Ottawa fell, and the retreat started. We made a stand at Buffalo, and that was where I copped it. I remember being picked up and getting a narcotic injection. The next thing I knew, I was in bed, upstairs, and it was 1945 again, and I was back in my own little 13-year-old body." "Oh, Allan, you just had a nightmare to end nightmares," his father assured him, laughing a trifle too heartily. "That's all." "That was one of the first things I thought of. I had to reject it. It just wouldn't fill the facts. Look, a normal dream is part of the dreamer's own physical brain, isn't it? Well, here is a part about 2,000% greater than the whole from which it was taken, which is absurd." "You mean all this Battle of Buffalo stuff? That's easy. All the radio commentators have been harping on the horrors of World War III, and you couldn't have avoided hearing some of it. You just have an undigested chunk of H.V. Kaltenborn raising hell in your subconscious." "It wasn't just World War III, it was everything. My 4 years at high school, and my 4 years at Penn State, and 7 years as a reporter on the Philadelphia Record. And my novels, Children of the Mist, Rose of Death, Conqueror's Road, they were no kid stuff. Why, yesterday I'd never even have thought of some of the ideas